I'm Johnny Vaughan. I've stopped brass, gang. And this is Steve Brooker, otherwise known as Mud God.
I actually want to change history.
He's one of a select group of licensed amateur archaeologists known as mudlarks who scour the banks of the River Thames, searching not for buried treasure, but for hidden history, and whose discoveries have changed our understanding of London forever.
There's stuff in that mud that no one's ever seen before.
On the Thames foreshore lies over 2,000 years of history just waiting to be discovered.
And that's what does it for me.
But larking's no job for those afraid to get stuck in. To wade through time, you've got to be prepared to get your hands dirty, armed with little more than a trowel and a lot of patience.
No! Wait!
Steve's agreed to share with me his decades of knowledge and experience.
It's cold!
We'll race against time and tide to get to the bottom of London's muddy history.
Oh yes!
Our adventures on the foreshore will propel us on historical quests that range from the sublime to the painful to the downright disgusting.
Oh, murder reeks! Oh, fuck! Out the shed.
As we become On today's Mudmen, I tracked down the very gun that fired a 250-year-old musket ball.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's got that "it's coming home" kind of feel.
Hear it.
While Steve investigates the origins of a mysterious gold trumpet.
Unbelievable. From my hand to the battlefields of Waterloo, all in one hit.
And we go ballistic as we explore the guns used by the British military over the last 200 years. Today, Mudmen comes to you from the Tower of London. Now, William the Conqueror, of course, defeated King Harold at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, actually started work on this in 1080. He never saw it finished, his son did, but it still stands, this white tower, as a very dramatic symbol of Norman dominance and the new Norman era. The Tower of London is actually made up of 21 separate towers over an 18-acre site. It's perhaps most famous as a place of imprisonment and bloody executions. Through the centuries, it has borne witness to the mysterious disappearance of the Little Princes, the execution of two Queens of England, Catherine Howard and Anne Boleyn, and the torture of various prisoners, including Guy Fawkes. It served many roles over the years as a royal residence, an administrative centre, and as a home to the principal armoury of the realm.
Obviously, all these buildings are protected by Queen Elizabeth. She'd be mad not to. She keeps her jewellery here. This is the royal safe, the royal jewellery box. All people don't know is that the foreshore down there are also protected by the Crown. They are Crown estate, Crown property. Luckily, we must be in Her Majesty's good favour because we've got permission. It's tremendously exciting. Consider it's got over 1,000 years history here and all the grisly things that have happened over the years. We could find some great things down there as we become Mudmen.
I am one of 51 mudlarks licensed to dig up to 1 metre on the Thames. Johnny's foreshore licence allows him to scrape up to 3 inches. But today we can't even use the tools of our trade.
Now, the thing I'm up against is I can't detect, I can't scrape, I can't dig a hole. So how am I and Vaughan going to find anything?
But it's not only the lack of tools we're up against, it's tide and time. The Thames is unusually high today, giving us less than 2 hours for mudlarking.
Fortunately, Steve and I won't be going it alone. Every mud god needs his mud army. Helping us scour the foreshore today will be Steph the Eyes, the mysteriously named GM, Woolwich John, and Rock God, Steve's second in command, along with Stolly, the Mudhound.
And it should provide some wonderful finds today, if I can just get Johnny to stop being a tourist.
You see, those are, I think, the most chilling words you can really see along the whole Thames, really. Entry to the Traitors' Gate.
The gate was originally built by Edward I as an entrance to the tower. It became known as Traitor's Gate from the early 17th century, when prisoners were brought by barge along the Thames to the tower.
The absolute terror when you were in a boat and you knew the next time you got a view from that was your head from a pike. The worst boat trip in the world.
But what we're going to do today, there, is I'm going to take you to the back door of the tower.
Are you?
Where the rough and readies went in.
Is this the jackpot site for mudlarking? Is this where everyone wants to do it? Because of, as I say, 1,000 years of history and comings and goings here.
It's the big one for me, son. Yeah, it's a big one.
This is like Wembley for mudlarkers.
It is.
Okay.
And the cup final for mudlarkers is finding something that changes our knowledge of history. It's not golden hoards we're looking for, but rather the clues that unlock the secrets of London's past. And even the most mundane of objects can tell a story.
Coal! I found some coal!
Hey. Now, the mudlarks from the 1850s, what do you actually think they were after? Do you think they were after the artefacts?
I think they were probably just scavenging to make a living.
Imagine boats coming in with coal. Of course, they drop a bit.
Yeah.
So, to say, in my lovely bucket today, I filled it to the top, yeah? I would have sold this to the lowest of the low for a couple of pence. Now, this would have bought me maybe a loaf of bread. It was one of the main things they scavenged
So
for.
me finding that and thinking, oh, look, I found something else that's quite rubbish,
Yeah.
is I've actually had a really significant find that's very relevant to the programme.
Mega relevant, yeah, because we're mudlark. Yeah, we could be in the 1850s.
And they were the real lowest of the low then. They were almost like untouchables.
And also the toshers. We had the toshers, which had a bit of kudos, yeah, the guys that would have gone in the sewers. Hence why, what a load of old tosh.
Okay.
Imagine what these
Is
guys...
that what it is?
Yeah.
What a load of old tosh.
Yeah, the toshers in their bucket.
We're seeing a lot of bones down here, aren't we? Hell, that's a sheep's jawbone, because obviously it used to have mutton, not lamb.
Well, yeah, we got the tower. Where do you think the waste from the tower went?
One big guess. Is it the Thames?
It's the rubbish from the tower.
Okay.
But did Henry nibble on this? Imagine him sitting up there watching his...
You can't tell how old that is. It would have rotted a bit more.
No, it doesn't. Anaerobic again. Remember, this has been out, and this has just come to the top
Okay,
again.
just explain to me what this anaerobic thing is you're talking about.
Anaerobic mud, there's no air in it. You need air for things to break down. So whether it be coinage, whether it be bone, whether it be clothing. Now, this has come to the top. And if you can imagine, it has 2 tides a day with all those pebbles going back and forth.
Yeah.
If we don't actually pick those up before those stones get it,
Okay.
they wear down.
I can just scan the surface here, can I? That's
Yeah.
it. Hey, yeah. Look at that.
Right.
Yes, I found something.
iPad, son.
No, it's not.
No,
What
it's
is it?
not.
What is it?
It's a shoe, but I can see there's not much wear on this.
Yeah. It must be one. Look how thin the inset bit is there.
Yeah, but imagine people in the 16th century a lot smaller than us. Remember, all undernourished near enough, apart from the people living in the tower, of course, who had plenty to eat.
Yeah.
But this is, 400 or 500 years old, and it's still there. I'm going to take you up to this place where it's eroding out,
Okay, nice one.
and hopefully we'll find something. Look, you can see where it's eroding out. See the blackness?
Yeah.
See the erosion that's going on? Again, survey the area.
Okay.
Well, there you go, look, pins.
There is bent pins.
Show me that. What do you think that is? It's chainmail.
Is that chainmail?
This is chainmail.
Yeah.
Now, the ordnance were up here making chainmail.
Just saying, I've just seen my first proper find. I hate to be really excited, but look,
Yeah.
that is without doubt.
Hey!
That's a musket ball, right?
Yep, it is musket ball. Now,
And there's another one down here. Oh no, is that a musket ball?
yeah, that's a musket ball as
It's not a
well.
musket ball as well. Doesn't
Yeah.
look quite round enough.
We've got a nice round musket ball, and of course we've got this one that's a bit chewed up.
Musket balls were produced in their tens of thousands by the Tower Armoury between the 16th and 19th centuries. They were made from lead that was mined all over Britain and which, like all major supplies to the Tower, was delivered via the Thames.
You've heard of the term biting the bullet?
Yes.
What do you think biting the bullet means?
I think someone just got to bite the bullet means you're going to get shot in the mouth, I would think.
Imagine, I've got to take your leg off. As I took your leg off, you'd actually bite down on one of these things. Now, is that true or not?
No, I think that's probably why you bit a bullet, because it was painful and you probably did crack a tooth, but that'd be a damn sight better than the pain going on down there. So you'd be distracted by that pain, and it would take you away from that pain, like an echo thing. That's right, isn't it? I've got it right. I've got a feeling I've got it right.
Or, if I bought a pistol, a gun, you'd actually get a mould with your gun that you'd actually pour lead into. My actual musket ball would be different from yours. Now, for instance, I've killed you, I've had your gun. I haven't got your mould. So, what I've got to do, is I make something as close as I can to the bore of your gun, and then I chew on it to make it the same size as your bore.
God, you see, you're biting the bullet. I think it's more likely that biting the bullet is the very, 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 very poor man's anaesthetic.
Somehow, I don't think we've heard the last of this matter.
With less than half an hour of tide left, it's time to check in with my right-hand man, Rock God, to see what he's had up.
There's pins, trapes, got a jetton, traders, loads of muskets.
Dressmaking pin. Humongous. One of the biggest pinheads I've ever found. Gross farthing. So about 1550, something like that. Got another horny plenty.
Hey!
You really are Mr. Horny.
Coming up, Steve and I stumble across a most fantastic find.
I sort of saw it first.
And it looks very much like it's gold. Today, mud god Steve Brooker and I are on the foreshore of the Tower of London to unearth London's muddy history.
With only minutes before the tide comes in, we're forced to move towards the Tower Wall. So far from the river's edge, it's often overlooked by mudlarks. But if my 20 years of experience has taught me anything, don't ever try to predict what the tides will do.
Actually, look, there's more black over here.
What?
This is the kind of setup you're looking for.
Is
Where
this too close? I mean,
Right, hold tight, right? Don't even move.
Oh my God.
Survey.
Oh my God. I sort of saw it first from down there, but I wasn't going to say anything.
No, this is mine.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about now.
It's gold. It's gold. It's clearly gold.
I don't think it's going to be gold, because as I said to you, copper, brass, if it's in that anaerobic mud, it will come out looking like gold. I mean, this is something quite special.
Can we get it out then?
Well, yes, of course, man.
Is there great excitement about this, do you think?
I'd say for me, major.
Okay.
I don't know how long it's going to be.
The whole ground's moving. There's more there. There is more. It's bigger. Go on. It's something superb.
I just think it's amazing.
Let's get this rinsed off a bit.
There's some enamelling going on.
Yeah, there is. There's some blue enamelling on it. I saw that as well. Oh, the tension. Has there ever been so much tension in an empty ice cream tub? Let's have a little look.
It's brilliant. Absolutely
No,
brilliant.
it's more than brilliant.
In all my years of mudlarking, I've never found anything like this on the foreshore. Thankfully, Johnny, with his several hours of experience, seems to know exactly what we've unearthed.
I'm saying it looks a bit like something from a Roman epic. I'm calling it certainly Roman, almost certainly made of gold, and I think it's worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you can now retire.
Steve, that's text with Nat saying that the water's hitting the bottom of the stairs.
Is it?
Yeah, so we should probably get back.
If you look down there, of course it looks like we've got loads of foreshore,
Yeah.
but the tide's actually coming in at the bottom of the stairs, so we are actually going to get cut off.
As a courtesy, all significant finds should be registered with what's known as the Portable Antiquities Scheme. But before we do so, we want to find out a little bit more about our booty. And if there's one man who can tell us whether our finds are significant or worth little more than the mud from whence they came, it's Jeff Egan. Now, there's two things I know about Jeff. One, he's a National Finds Advisor at the British Museum, and two, he's got a beard, which means he knows what he's talking about. So, we're meeting up with him at Mudman HQ near London Bridge.
So here we are, by kind permission of the Queen, we investigate the Tower of London foreshore, and this is our booty, right, Steve?
Looks good to me.
First of all, how many times a year are you allowed to actually go down onto the foreshore there?
The general public can go down twice a year.
I wasn't talking about the general public, Steve.
Oh, the
I was
mud-
rather thinking about the ones mudlarking people.
Nobody can go down there.
Never.
It's totally protected unless we get, like we did, we got an invitation from the Crown, of course, to go down there. You're just not allowed down there. Nobody can go down there.
Okay guys, focus. The finds are here before us.
Okay. Jeff, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm impressed by this material here. It does indeed reflect the military aspects of the Tower of London, as well as life in general.
Okay, where do you want to start then, Jeff?
Well, let's see. Let's start with this object, shall we?
What is this object?
That's a rather viciously hooked copper alloy clasp end. And these used to operate in pairs. They had either textile straps or maybe a chain to have anchored women's clothing.
Okay, either side,
Either side, sort of like almost like a cloak clasp today, perhaps, for some smart people. And this one is really nice because it's got 3 knots, and those on the real upper class ones of these would have been real stones, really good gem quality garnet. Early 16th century, late 15th century, but very characteristic of that period. And let's see, there's a tin glazeware plate, very colourful in its time, and perhaps you can see there are 3 apples on this, blobs with green. Now this is part of a great big, what's called a charger, a dish with a fantastic picture of fruit on, so suitable for eating a meal off or indeed keeping fruit on. And this might well have been made in the immediate area. There's factories over the other side of the river in Southwark on the south bank of the Thames, making exactly this in the early 17th century, mid 17th century. So this is probably a local piece. It hasn't gone very far.
Wow. And these all hand painted then?
Oh yes.
Okay. Is that called habit of hand?
Habit of hand is when you can do 3 very quickly, 3 pieces of fruit or whatever.
So people themselves become almost mechanised.
That's right.
Right, gotcha. Habit of hand. Well, would this have been very expensive?
It's a sort of medium quality plate. It's got a bit of white colour, which is supposed to be quite smart.
But back then, to have something white would have been amazingly fast. It said that you could...
If you have it purely white, it had a real cachet with it that we don't really understand today, because you would see just how thin the whole thing was.
Enough dressmaking and homeware. Let's wave goodbye to our feminine sides. It's man time.
Well, military things, these pieces of shot. There's 2 here that are cast together, deliberately so. They do a bit more damage as they came through the air.
That is an accident. You actually do get double shot like that.
Yeah, you sometimes get a little bar holding them together.
It whirls through the air, it makes a much bigger hole.
That's right.
Wow.
When you try snapping it, it doesn't, so there probably is a bar in them.
Yeah.
So a range of sizes.
But you get an idea of being smacked with one of those, eh?
Yeah, heavy things.
It actually take your leg off me.
Really?
Oh yes, that size.
And now it's time for the biggie. Our star find, the Golden Horn.
Well, it's a bugle of some kind, a very decorative one, and it's probably from a bandsman of a military unit, or it could be a more general symbol of a particular regiment.
Jeff may be the font of all knowledge, but I reckon such a specialist find is going to require some military detective work.
Right over in the far corner there, several pieces of chainmail, both individual lengths and joined, and they're both copper alloy. You get that in the medieval period, by which I mean 15th century sometimes, but it's much more likely to be post-medieval. These are actually being made, of course, in the Tower. The Tower was the national almost factory for producing arms and armaments and armour.
Okay.
So very nice evidence for the manufacture that was going on in the tower itself over a period of time probably.
Whilst Jeff gives us the lowdown on our finds, verifying everything and bringing decades of academic experience literally to the table, Steve's more your tin pot theory kind of guy.
Of course, Jeff comes through with the good stuff. Yeah, I come through with the quirky stuff.
Yeah.
This would have been made by the pattern cutter, thrown on the big sheet, and then the pattern cutter cuts out. Now, what was left over afterwards, and also what wears out on the chainmail, was also used for washing up.
Really?
Yeah, of course it was, yeah. So, your Brillo pad that we have today, this was the Brillo pad of the day.
To get all the grease and the animal stuff off it. Yeah,
Off it.
it was really greasy.
Yeah.
So they used chainmail.
Yeah.
Do we know this definitely?
Better ask the boss.
Jeff.
True or false?
I haven't heard of it myself. It's a good idea.
I've read it, Jeff. So for me, it's true.
It has a man who's read
It's
it.
true.
And the book is good. I've heard, I think of it being used to clean helmets and other pieces of armour where you've got a potential for rust, and you can put that into your helmet because it all goes together, of course, part of the armour, and you just basically shunt the helmet around and that cleans it.
Okay.
It certainly does it with that, and nobody's going to stop people doing it in other facts of life.
So, undoubtedly, our finds from the tower have a distinctly military feel. Time then for me and Steve to say adieu as we go our separate ways, armed with little more than enthusiasm and a thirst for answers. Time to delve a little deeper. Coming up, Steve attempts to solve the mysterious riddle of the Golden Horn, whilst I shoot down to Brighton to give him both barrels. In your face, Steve. After a good day's mudlarking at the Tower of London, mud god Steve Brooker and I came up with a treasure trove of artefacts with a distinctly military feel. So now we want some more expert illumination. For me, that means going ballistic. So, those are the 4 musket balls we found at the foreshore of the Tower of London by kind permission of Her Majesty, quite legitimately purloined. Now I could go to the Tower of London to find out all about these and indeed the weapons that fired them, but you know what? If you want to get your real hardcore anorak, you got to come down here to Brighton, to the lanes where the experts lurk. Here we go. I'm now with David Hawkins from the Lanes Armoury, and he really is one of the country's foremost military dealers. Well, that's why we came all the way from the Tower of London to here, so you must be pretty good. I found these on the foreshore a little bit early. If you'd like to just come down and have a look, there's the 4 I found. So let's do them one by one. So what type of musket did this one come from?
That one is a little odd shaped, so it's difficult to say. It might have been a rejected made ball, because that appears to be where it was cast in the mould. But that part has never been taken off.
Okay.
So you would normally have to have a perfect spherical ball for a musket ball or an arquebus. So this one looks like it might have been rejected.
So that's a dud. So we've drawn a blank there. What about this little baby?
Now that is an interesting one. To me, that looks like archetypal Brown Bess musket ball.
Tell me about the Brown Bess.
Brown Bess was an important gun, very important in history, military history, British and world history, really. It was introduced around 1715. It was used up until the 1830s. It saw some of the most interesting battles around the world, certainly important during the American Revolutionary War, and one of the most famous battles of all time, effectively Waterloo.
So where were these actually made?
The most famous ones, the most collectible ones I find, are the ones made at the Tower of London, the Tower Brown Besses.
Have you got some there?
Yes, a small selection of Brown Besses.
That's the Brown Bess, is it?
This is the archetypal British Brown Bess. A particularly nice one, made at the Tower of London.
Particularly lovely example.
Particularly nice.
It's actually made at the Tower. Oh, it actually
At
says.
the Tower of London. It shows the cipher of George III. It's got the inspection marked there. Once it was finished being produced, they would then inspect it to make sure it was all working properly.
Yeah. There's no gun then in British military history that can kind of match this in terms of battles fought. This really was the boy.
It really was. Used by a frontline troop. You could even try that musket ball of yours in the barrel to see how it would load. It should do no harm whatsoever.
Can I put it down the barrel?
Yes, go ahead.
To test if it is from there. It's coming home. You ready? It's going to get that welcome home feeling as it drops down the barrel. Here we go. There it is. So it fits, it's fine, it is a Brown Bess.
That was exactly the size.
Okay. So that's a Brown Bess musket ball. Here, you can settle a bit of a dispute. I had a bit of a squabble with Steve about the phrase, bite the bullet.
Actually, I've got to take your leg off. You've been injured. They can make you bite the bullet. As I took your leg off here, you'd actually bite down on one of these things. Now, is that true or not?
In those days, every civilian gun had its own mould, its own exclusive calibre, so you'd bite the bullet if you were trimming it down effectively to your size.
I would say the first one.
Yes!
You'd actually bite the bullet, possibly in pain.
Yes. In your face, Steve. Trimming it down.
As for trimming it down, I think you'd wear your teeth out faster. Yes. Even though lead is soft, doing that too much and it wouldn't taste very nice.
Probably answer A, you're saying, yeah?
I'd say answer A myself.
Probably answer A, Steve.
That's my idea.
Okay, let's find out what Steve is up to. Steve, you were wrong. Steve.
So whilst Johnny's playing with his balls, I'm here to find out more about this. Now, it's the first time I've ever found one, and Jeff's got his eye over it, and he thinks a possible military connection. So I'm here, in the line of duty at the National Army Museum to find out more. Hey, what's you doing? I'm sorry. Johnny and I were on the tower foreshore, and we were up against the back wall. And of course this was sticking out of the mud, so it was glinting like pure gold.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic.
Can you tell me anything about it?
Yeah, I can. That is a light infantry badge.
Who were the light infantry?
Well, in the 18th century, every British foot regiment would have a light company, which was a set of guys whose job it is to get out in front of the rest of the army and disrupt the enemy by trying to take out individuals, maybe officers or musicians. As we go into the 1800s, a guy called General Sir John Moore decided that we'd better have whole regiments of those, so we started incorporating them together. And when we got these regiments put in, they needed their own insignia and their own badges, and this, which is called a bugle horn, is the main badge for light infantry soldiers.
So what kind of age would we have on this one?
Well, it's difficult to say. The size of it, the shape of it, I would say that's probably a 19th century badge, pre-First World War. It's almost certainly late Napoleonic going into the Victorian period.
And of course we took it out of the mud, we've got a lug here. Now, is it possible there would have been a lug here?
Almost certainly. I mean, you have the two pieces there that connect together, and then you have a split pin that goes through the back and holds it in place, most likely on the guy's cap right at the front of his head.
So definitely a cap badge?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. The idea that somebody's hat blew off and ended up in the Thames is not that remarkable when you think about it.
Of course, when I look at this, I describe this as a big horn.
Obviously, in the period that we're talking about, nobody has battlefield radio. You can't shout across a very noisy battlefield. So we have to use musicians, and most line infantry regiments will have drummers to beat out tattoos that will tell the soldiers what they're supposed to do. But if you are a light infantry regiment and you've got to move quick, you can't have a guy with a great big side drum on because it will slow you down. The musicians that are attached to light infantry tend to use trumpets and horns. That's why that symbol, well, one theory at least, of why that symbol is attached to light infantry is because of that.
So would this actual symbol be put on anything else to do with their clothing, their whatever?
Yeah, it will show up all over the place. All soldiers will forage, and if you can find a better bit of kit, well, that might be quite useful. But if it's got a great big light infantry badge on it, if you're a foot regiment, you're going to have to either winkle that off, or you'll have to leave it alone.
So which light infantry regiment was the most famous?
I mean, you've got people like the Durham Light Infantry, the King's Shropshire Light Infantry, and I suppose one of the most famous is going to be these guys. This is a rifleman from the 95th Rifles, one of the famous green jackets. And you can see on his badge here is a version of that bugle badge that you've got there. And in fact, that string badge is something that's replicated in the British Army even to this day. But as you can see, he's not standing in a line with all of his mates. He's out in front doing a bit of skirmishing. He's out trying to pick off enemy soldiers, like officers or musicians, to try and disrupt the enemy command structure. And that's his job.
In his day, the musician, that was a dangerous job.
Oh yeah, the drummers, the buglers, the trumpeters are the way of transferring your commands around the battlefield. If you can put a musket ball into one of them, then you're going to disrupt that.
To knock out the guy that was playing the trombone or whatever.
Yeah.
The things do.
Absolutely.
So what was their finest hour?
They end the Napoleonic Wars where everyone ends the Napoleonic Wars, on the field at Waterloo. A version, something very similar to that, would have been on the field at Waterloo.
Unbelievable. From my hand to the battlefields of Waterloo, all in one hit. That's brilliant. It's really good to know.
Okay.
Well, Julian, it's been a superb day for me to actually find out about my cat badge, my beautiful cat badge, and I suppose really it belongs here. When it boils down to it, it should be in your collection, I suppose.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, can I have it then?
We're coming to some agreement. How about Berry?
I'm not giving you a berry, mate. Sorry.
You've got a big collection. How about rifle? How about a rifle?
I can't give you a rifle, man. I'm sorry.
The cannons out the front. I love a cannon. You've got loads of cannons here. Let's have a cannon.
You can't have a cannon, Steve. You can't. I'm sorry.
Our days larking at the Tower of London led us to investigate all things military. Both our finds took us to the Battle of Waterloo. So we found the ammo, traced the rifle, met the army. Really, there's only one thing left to do. Let's go shoot the guns. And if If you want to bring history to life with a bang, then there's no better place to go than the HQ of the National Rifle Association at Bisley in Surrey. Founded in 1859 as a centre of marksmanship to counter the threat of the pesky French, these days it's a training ground for everyone from keen amateurs to the world's finest sharpshooters.
Are you a good shot?
I'm not going to say I'm amazing, I'm medium. I think you'll probably beat me, but...
Actually, Steve, it's unlikely, because I'm left-eyed, but I'm right-handed.
And of course I had to wear glasses so we could tally up here.
The only thing to do is that neither of us are very good. But I tell you what though, if we get one of those ones... No, don't be sensible. Hopefully we'll be able to get a shot with the Vickers as well. I'd find that really interesting in a really mature way. Not sort of childishly just wanting to brass up anything that moves or doesn't move. They're doing everything in a really sensible sort of way and observing all laws of shooting and safety. I have no live rounds or empty cases in my possession. Stop! Right, let's go, Steve. Let's go and do that. Hello there, Johnny.
Hello, John.
Right there,
Okay.
Johnny.
With expert help, we're going to trace the evolution of firearms used by the British Army. And there's only one place to start, the good old Brown Bess.
I think you'll be familiar with that, Johnny. It's very similar to the one you found.
That is similar, meaning the same as.
It is in fact the same. Basically, solid lead, 75 calibre, and it's fired from this, as you've discovered, the Brown Bess smoothbore musket. And these lead balls were fired out about 1,200 feet per second. That's 3/4 of the speed of sound. It's fast. And unlike modern bullets that drill nice, neat little 5mm holes, this hits you in the shoulder. It's going to take your arm off. If it hits bone, you just smash everything.
And if you hit someone, basically he was dead.
Yep, that's exactly what happened to Nelson. He was shot through the collarbone and went right down, smashed his spine, punctured both of his lungs, and he just drowned in his own blood full of massive internal injuries.
Yeah.
It's a big heavy ball, a huge amount of powder. Because it's not rifled, the only way of getting the bullet to go 100 yards is to put as much powder as we can get in there. This is a real triumph of brute force over gravity.
Well, they used to chew these down, didn't they, as well?
I think it's one of them, I'm not sure how true it is. It's one of the sort of, it's the urban myth.
Steve, would you just drop it? We found out bite the bullet means to bite into it really hard when you're literally getting something amputated, so it takes away the pain, right? We know that now.
Well, I think I'm going to sort of throw my own theory for this. Originally, these bullets came with a paper cartridge with a powder charge that was twisted at the end, and what the soldier did was he took the cartridge, bit the paper, tore it off, poured the powder down the muzzle, put the ball in, rammed it down. And bite the bullet came from biting the cartridge.
Both wrong. There was a third one though, and they were bitten and deformed, like a dum-dum bullet.
They do, when they hit, they flatten right out to become about the size of a 10p piece.
That's called the Quibbler's theory.
I mean, I suspect at the end of the day, if you've been shot with one of these things, the last thing you're going to want to do is start chewing a lump of lead. Well, there are several terms that come from shooting. Going off at half cock is if you've got the gun in the locked half cock position. If you pull the trigger, it half goes off, but not enough spark to actually set the gun off.
Okay.
Flash in the pan is if you actually cock the gun, fire it, you get the flash, but the gun hasn't actually gone off. That's the fact. You don't, you're all sitting here going, when it goes off the reel, it will frighten the life out of you, believe me. The role as a gun was secondary. The purpose of these things is just to get the bayonet 6 foot closer to the enemy than you could if you had the bayonet in your hand. The whole purpose is to fire a couple of rounds to break the enemy up, and then you go in.
Explain it, lads.
Enough talk. Time to get our ears on, our eyes in, and cock old Bessie.
Because I can't even see the target down now, I'm going to have to put on my bins first, followed by my safety bins, followed by my ear bins, and now I'm ready for action.
Protected.
Health and safety at its best.
Every time.
You have to load these things standing up. You've got to bear in mind you'll be doing this in battle with cannonballs flying around, horses, people with swords trying to swipe at you, whatever.
So you had to have a pocket full of wadding as well.
They had little
Gunpowder,
pouches with all the
wadding.
bits. Originally they would have had paper
Then you ram.
cartridges. You then ram that home.
So is there any danger that going off just by you ramming it?
Yes, there is. When you're actually in battle, if you've got a glowing ember from your previous shot there, it can go off, at which point you get the round right through your head.
It's a death trap. Any way you cut it.
I mean, they are designed to be dangerous, and these things are dangerous.
Okay.
And a priming pan. Now basically that's loaded and ready to go. So when you get it, just bring the gun back to full cock, take an aim on the target over number 3 there,
Okay.
squeeze the trigger, and it'll go off.
Clear.
Whoa!
That's gonna kick it like a mule.
That tree just fell down.
Right, you've now got your adrenaline's pumped, you've managed to reload with fumbling fingers, the enemy's now about 20 yards away from you, you've got one more shot, then you're in with the bayonet, or he's going to bayonet you.
Okay. It's kill or be killed, right?
Kill or be
Let's
killed
say.
at this stage.
Okay, we'll clock it. Whoa!
And now in with the bayonet.
Yeah, right.
Let's ask Colin, did he hit the target?
How far was I on the second? First shot was nearer, actually, wasn't it?
Baldy, what's that target?
Whoa!
Colin, did I hit it or not?
Yes, you did actually.
Did I really? One shot, expert, 2 shots.
Brilliant, well done.
I mean, at 100 yards, a good soldier will hit the
But
target.
he just hit the
Yeah,
target.
I mean, that's an untrained first shot, probably luck, but, you know, we'll let you off.
No.
Carry on, go on, Steve, nail it.
You can imagine Waterloo when there's 50,000 blokes firing there. You couldn't see a thing. You couldn't see a foot in front of you. And of course, that's why redcoats were worn, so the officers could see where their men were through the fog. If they wore green like today, Wellington wouldn't have seen where the hell his blokes were. Your final chance to kill the Frenchman before he's on you with the bayonet.
Tight to the shoulder, Steve, go on. You hit it. You definitely got the target.
That was a definite
Brilliant.
I thought it was. Sergeant, to myself, it's a kill.
In the final path of Mudmen, time to bring out the big guns. Our day mudlarking at the Tower of London has led us to the rifle range at Bisley via the battlefields of Waterloo. Steve returned a light infantry cap badge to its rightful owners, whilst I traced the very gun that fired the musket balls I found on the foreshore.
Lovely sound.
Now we're examining the history of firearms used by the British Army over the last 200 years. For me and Steve, that means getting a little trigger happy.
What can we fire next?
Right, we're not going to fire the next one, we'll just look at that, so we're going to crack on. The big advance happened in the Crimea to Patton 1853 rifle. Key difference is the word rifle.
What does that mean?
It spins, there are grooves inside the barrel which spin the bullet as it flies. It's like American football. If you take an American football and throw it, it just waddles end over end and lands 3 foot in front of you. If they spin it, they can throw it the full length of the pitch because it stabilises in flight. It's exactly what this does. With this, you can hit a man at 600 yards.
Really? I mean, yeah. Really?
Warfare has suddenly become much more dangerous. With one of those, I could stand 200 yards away, you could shoot at me all day, and I'd just sit there with my gin and tonic enjoying myself, thinking, that Baldy's got no chance.
Yeah, which you're right to think.
There's a famous general during the American Civil War who was stood about 400 yards away from some Union soldiers, sat on his horse, and his last words were to his officers who were saying, "Get down, General, it's dangerous." He said, "Don't be stupid, they couldn't hit an elephant at this." At that point, the bullet went straight through him.
And of course, this is also the First World War where trenches start to appear.
Exactly.
Because they're having to sort of think, how do we deal with accuracy here?
Soldiers had to hide. You could no longer walk around in big columns. You're exactly right. You had to dig a hole, you had to hide in a cave, you had to do something to try and balance it out. The thing is, it still only fires 2-3 rounds a minute top whack.
Next up is the Martini Henry, which in 1871 became the first purpose-built breech-loading rifle to see service in the British Army, most famously at Rorke's Drift.
This is it, the Zulu gun.
She was a breech-loading weapon.
Now this is made in Enfield then, the first one had not made in the Tower.
It was around the late 1850s the government actually opened their own arms factory at Enfield Lock. Now the big advance is we've now got a round. It's self-contained. Brass case. It's got the cap, the same as the percussion cap that we looked at previously. That's the bullet. and the black powder, it's still gunpowder, is contained within the case. So to load it, you simply drop it in the chamber and close the lever. You can now get 10-15 rounds a minute off. So for the first time, we've got a gun which is accurate to 600 or 700 yards. We can fire it 10 times a minute. Warfare's come up yet another step.
Synthesised end bullet.
No.
They are missiles.
Steve's going to be the Sergeant Major, you're going to be Private Vaughan again. You're going to fire to command.
Private Vaughan, load! Present! And fire! Present and fire! And fire!
Yes! One of those would have killed the opponent at 100 yards, and you got all 3 shots
Unfair
off.
smoking.
Very good.
Booyah! Sorry.
Next thing they did, of course, was they developed a small calibre cordite propelled magazine fed rifle, which is what we're going to go and look at now.
Okay.
This is the next step, the bolt action. This is a short magazine Lee Enfield, dates from the First World War. Uses a cartridge the same as the Martini, and like all the previous guns at Black Powder, this uses cordite. Much cleaner burning, much more energetic, probably about 2 to 3 times as powerful as the one we've just been looking at. Other differences, this is a 10 round magazine. You load your cartridges into the top of the gun like this, and once you've loaded
Once more into the breech.
So basically you just put your 10 rounds in, and it's ready to go.
Holds 10.
It holds 10 rounds.
10 and one chambered.
One chambered, so you've got a total of 11 rounds, accurate out to about 1,600 yards now. These were actually so rapid firing in the hands of British troops, a lot of the German units reported they were up against heavy machine guns. But actually it was just our guys working these things so fast.
10 rounds rapid fire! In your own time, commence! Faster! You're on us now, we're dead now, you've killed us! You've killed us!
All over. This is why the First World War developed into trench warfare. If you stood up in front of that, you were dead. The only thing you could do was hide underground as quick as you can and stay down there for as long as you could.
The advent of smokeless cordite powder allowed for the development of machine guns such as the Vickers. Previously, gunpowder was so smoky and filthy, guns would simply seize up after repeated firing. As cordite-packed bullets produced no residue, for the first time, it was possible to have a fully automatic weapon without fear of it jamming.
Here's a Vickers gun, First World War design. 303 belt-fed machine gun. What I'm doing now is basically setting the gun up for firing, making sure it's oiled. You don't want any stopping. Far too high.
It's water cooled so it doesn't overheat. I think it was the Buffs during one of the early battles of the Somme fired about 1.5 million rounds out of one gun in 24 hours.
1.5 million?
They just kept linking belts up, changing barrels, pouring more water in, bringing more belts in. They just kept going and going. These things get through a 250 round belt in 5 seconds. Now they have to be hand loaded. You'd have to have 40 or 50 men in the trench 100 yards behind, desperately reloading bullets, opening cases, trying to keep the things fed. It's based on the Maxim gun, which the Germans used in the First World War. The Maxim guns called the Grim Reaper, the Devil's Paintbrush, all sorts of things.
Devil's Paintbrush.
The Devil's Paintbrush was what it was called.
The Devil's Paintbrush. So did we copy this off them then, effectively, or was this a...
No, Maxim was actually American. The Germans bought the gun, and the British bought the gun. We had it made at the Vickers factory at Ellswick, which is why we called it the Vickers. They made theirs at Spandau, their arsenals like that.
Where we get the phrase Spandau Ballet. Which is exactly what our British troops did as they danced in front of the Spandau machine gun, yeah.
That was the big arsenal just outside Berlin.
I think, Steve, I'll just jump in here. To be fair, it's my turn.
I've got a note from my mum. Your pink soldier in the wash. I'm on it.
No, Steve, like, to be fair, you went for the Lee Enfield. I had the...
Go on then.
Okay.
Once again, it's another saying, bailed up,
Yeah.
where machine gun guys came down trenches with their empty belts, gave it to the guys just sitting around to tell them to put ammo into their belts so they could carry on firing.
Okay, so that's what they used to do. I guess when they're time lines. Okay.
Cock and levers, that comes up and round, stops about there.
Okay, if you want to cock it, I'm just more interested in your
What I
firing
will do-
bits.
Right, this is the only weapon you actually cock twice.
Okay.
Once. I'm going to do it 3 times, just to make sure.
We're cocked. Everyone at a safe distance. Got the things there. Are we ready?
That's quality.
So easy. The action of a soldier when using a Vickers gun, but nonetheless it proves the point. And you did hit the target with all 500 bullets that time. Brilliant.
Uniform?
Yes.
Oh, the smell! It's the smell that does it for me. That's terrible.
Every home should have one.
That is
That should come out for all
unbelievable.
family celebrations, always. That is phenomenal. Oh, man!
Brilliant.
Can I have another go? Just one more go, go on.
I'm going to film Johnny so he can take it home to the pub tonight and show the
I
boys.
thought I want to send it to my mum. My mum really likes weapons of war. She bought my first subscription to it when I was 5. Okay, you're going to need both hands for it. And come low. She can really get it on the whole thing. It's the most important thing we've done all day. All right, Mum. All right, I wish you were here, Ma. Forgive me, Mum. That's the best thing. It's so good. I mean, what a day, really.
Unbelievable. I just loved it. I actually love the musket.
I know.
What do you like best?
I'd have to go with the 303 Lee Enfield. That little babe's won 2 wars for us.
I must admit, though, sitting behind that Vickers, though, just round after round after round.
Okay, forget the Lee Enfield, the Vickers, all the way. It's got the same ammo, different rules.
Brilliant. I loved
It
it.
was phenomenal,
It
wasn't
was, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to start a couple of hillbilly nutmegs. But that was some good shooting. I think you got to win the day there with the musket fire, I really do.
Well,
Because that was, you hit that twice, and I don't know how you did that, because that was massive. And let's go, it's getting dark, come on, let's go to the pub.
I loved it. I really did love it. Since the filming of Mudmen, our expert Jeff Egan sadly passed away. To us, Jeff was a god, an actual genius on our finds from the foreshore. So Jeff, rest in peace, and we'd like to dedicate the whole series to you, mate.